Do you think a brother can end her sister's life just for getting her period? Neha is a young 12-year-old girl who lives with her 30-year-old brother Ramesh in Maharashtra's Ulhasnagar. She is still in school while her brother works as a security guard to make a living. Now, one day, Ramesh got suspicious and thought that Neha was having an affair with a boy in the neighborhood, because he saw that Neha had blood spots all over her clothes. He likely thought that the blood was a result of the breaking of the hymen, implying that Neha had a physical relationship with this boy. When Ramesh directly questioned Neha about it, she was unable to provide a reasonable answer, because unfortunately, 70% of girls in India do not know what menstruation is before they get their first period. And Neha was a part of that 70%. These blood stains were from her first period. She herself was unaware of menstruation and she was scared about what was happening to her body. However, Ramesh took Neha's silence as a confirmation of his suspicions and he started torturing Neha. Over the next 4 days, she was severely beaten up and assaulted by her brother, where he literally burned her with hot tongs all across her body. She fell unconscious on the 4th day, after which she was taken to the hospital, but it was already too late. The doctors declared her dead on arrival. While the names are changed, this is a true story that came out in June 2023, where something as basic as a sanitary pad could have saved the life of an innocent child. And unfortunately, most stories like this are not uncommon in India. After reading this story, I wanted answers. Does our culture really hate women for something as natural as menstruation? So I started researching the roots of this problem in India. And after spending several hours going through multiple reports and reading first-hand experiences of several women on Reddit, I realized that this problem is because of two reasons: the stigma around periods and a lack of awareness on how to deal with them. But things have been changing steadily in India. And there is one brand that has been at the forefront of this movement while also creating a 3,400 crore rupees business out of it. Whisper currently leads the sanitary pads industry in India with more than 50% market share. But what is equally impressive is how Whisper has been building the women's sanitary pad segment in India, which has seen the market grow from just 34 crore rupees in 1989 to more than 3,400 crore rupees as of today. So let's understand why women need sanitary pads in the first place. Menstruation is a natural biological process in the reproductive system. Every single month, the uterus or womb prepares itself for pregnancy, and if that pregnancy does not occur, the uterus lining breaks down and bleeds, causing a period which lasts from 3 to 5 days. Now, a common misconception is that the entirety of these 3 to 5 days is a bloodbath with massive amounts of blood loss, which is not true. On average, a woman loses about 30 to 40 ml of blood over these 3 to 5 days. That is about 6 to 8 teaspoons of blood. So essentially, drops of blood drip down throughout the period. But that is not it. And pay attention here, because it will be important later in the video. The blood loss is not uniform throughout these 3 to 5 days. At the start, the flow is very slow, with just a few drops every few hours, also called spotting. This was what Neha was experiencing during her first period as well. From the second day onwards, the flow becomes heavier and continues to be heavy for the next 48 hours or so. And then on the last 1 or 2 days, the flow is again very light, with a few drops every few hours. Another important point to note here is that 30 to 40 ml in a cycle is the average. Some women can lose as much as 80 ml, while others lose only 10 ml. Periods usually start between ages 11 and 14 and continue till menopause at about age 51. And while periods are accompanied by symptoms like severe cramps, lower back pain, mood swings, and headaches, what is most tedious to handle for women is the continuous blood loss. Women need something to absorb this blood, and traditionally that something has been any piece of cloth. Now, it is important to note here that there is nothing inherently wrong with using a piece of cloth for this purpose. But the key is to find a cloth material that is absorbent and, most importantly, hygienic. Ordinary cloth pieces can only absorb a few drops, which might lead to leakage, discomfort, and frequent need to change the cloth. But the biggest concern is hygiene. If the cloth being used is not clean, there is a risk of bacterial and fungal infections, which might also lead to hospitalization. And studies have also shown that poor menstrual hygiene might also be a cause of cervical cancer. But up until the 19th century, there was no other option than using pieces of cloth. All this changed with the invention of sanitary pads around World War II. But while these pads and other methods of sanitation were readily adopted in the West within the next few decades, India was way behind on this revolution, and there were two reasons behind this. If you have made it so far, please subscribe to my channel, and I promise my content will add value for you. Moving on. The number one reason was a lack of awareness. Because of all the hush-hush and stigma around menstruation, people were not ready to talk about it. Women didn't even know that something like sanitary pads existed. So they were using pieces of cloth, newspaper, and even ash for absorption during their periods. And then, the second reason was a lack of affordability and accessibility. Sanitary pads used to be imported and therefore were quite expensive, only available in urban areas. This was during the 1960s and 70s, a time when the earnings of the average Indian household were still quite low. So even if women knew about these pads, they could not afford them. But all of this changed when the multinational giant Procter Gamble, or P&G, decided to launch their brand of sanitary pads in India named Whisper. Whisper has been such a successful phenomenon in generating a new market in India that when they entered the Indian market in 1989, the size of the entire market was just 34 crore rupees. And as I said earlier, today the size of the same market is more than 3400 crore rupees. Now you might think that this was simply because of their first movers advantage. Whisper came in, started manufacturing in India, and suddenly became the market leader, right? But the fact is that Whisper was not the first big company that forayed into India. Another multinational giant, Johnson & Johnson, had been selling their brand of sanitary pads by the name Stay Free since 1969. That was 2 full decades before Whisper entered India. So what did Whisper do differently that Stay Free could not even in a span of 20 years? Well, firstly, Whisper understood the market dynamics and the problem statement in India very well, which was a simple lack of education and awareness at the grassroots level. They understood that the primary task at hand was not to improve their distribution channel or price or product quality, but to reach girls in need like Neha and educate them. And an absolute masterstroke in this regard was their school education program. Whisper hit the bullseye with this program where they decided to target girls in school who were on the cusp of puberty. They started visiting schools and organizing genuinely educative sessions that taught girls everything they needed to know about menstruation, including how to use a sanitary pad. And the program often also included the mothers in the discussion, aiming to change their perceptions about menstruation as well. It was a win-win-win situation for the schools, students, as well as Whisper. So Whisper would visit a school, conduct these visually aided sessions telling them about their periods and the importance of using sanitary pads, and then finally distribute a free pack of their Whisper pads at the end for the girls to use. And this last step was the most crucial part of the process for Whisper. If a girl gets a period for the first time and uses Whisper pads, then chances are that when the girl or her mom needs a new pack of pads during her next period, they are much more likely to ask for and buy Whisper pads than any other brand in the store. So they were capturing the customer right at the point where the customer was being created. Now, please note here that I am not saying that all of this was part of some evil money-minded plan. Procter & Gamble and their Whisper brand genuinely changed the lives of crores of girls like Neha, and in return, they were rewarded with well-deserved brand loyalty by these people. Whisper has been running this program successfully for the past 25 years. And today, they reach over 60 lakh girls in schools every single year. But this program is not an exception in their strategy. Whisper has launched several similar programs such as the Menstrual Health and Hygiene program, and they have also been a key player in advocating for policy changes, working with NGOs and the government to push for more menstrual friendly policies, like the inclusion of sanitary pads in the essential commodity list and tax reductions on menstrual hygiene products. Even their marketing campaigns reflect the same, where they try to break the taboos about periods and promote awareness. But during my research, I found that this awareness strategy was not the only reason for Whisper's success. Because what I found to be even more interesting was the pricing strategy of Whisper. I compared the entire range of Whisper with its next biggest competitor, Stay Free. And I found that for similar types of variants, Whisper charges 1.5 to almost 2 times more than Stay Free. For instance, while Stay Free Secure Dry XL sells for Rs 7.25 per pad, the similar variant in Whisper's product range, the Ultra Clean XL, sells for Rs 10.5 per pad. Similarly, while Stay Free Secure Night XXL pads sell for Rs 8.25 per pad, Whisper Nights XL Plus sells for Rs 14.75 per pad. That is almost 1.8x the price of Stay Free. So what has happened here is that Whisper has leveraged its positioning and brand loyalty, which it has created through all these awareness campaigns. And now it can sell its product at a higher price than its competitors and still sell more. And this also means that Whisper targets a premium segment of the market, middle to upper class consumers in urban areas who are less price sensitive and more concerned with product features and brand reputation. This also aligns with their educational campaigns in schools and efforts to raise awareness, which also caters to an audience that values education and is open to adopting new health and hygiene practices. But does that mean that Whisper is missing out on the lower end of the pyramid? And that their awareness campaigns in schools in low-income areas fetch them no long-term customers? Absolutely not. Because they have another product called Whisper Choice. And this product is actually cheaper than any of Stay Free's variants. While the Whisper Choice regular sells for less than Rs 5 per pad, I could not find any pad by Stay Free with an MRP below Rs 6. So do you see how Whisper has cleverly matched its offering for all segments of its target audience? It is getting the upper end of the pyramid with premium products where its earnings and margins are higher than its competitors, while it is also getting the lower end of the pyramid with probably the cheapest branded pads available in the market. And with all this extra money and market share, Whisper continues to innovate and bring out the best products in the market. For instance, I saw that several women had commented on Reddit threads that for the nights with the heaviest of flows, they only rely on Whisper's Nights variants, as almost all other pads are either leaking or uncomfortable. Because normally, the pads need to be replaced every 3 to 4 hours during heavy flow. And this is not possible to do at night without messing up with your sleep. To give you an example of their product leadership, the length of the pad is crucial in ensuring that there is no leakage during heavy flow at night, simply because it covers more area. And while Stay Free's longest pads for nighttime flow are 320 mm long, Whisper's longest pads for the night are 400 mm long. So this continued product innovation ensures that Whisper continues to command the trust of its customers. And finally, Whisper benefits from the distribution channel of its parent company, Procter Gamble. P&G is a multinational giant whose Indian arm is worth over 55,000 crore rupees, as they own popular brands in India like Vicks, Gillette, Head & Shoulders and Oral-B. And it has access to a distribution network of over 6.5 lakh retail stores in India. So P&G has been able to capitalize on its existing distribution channels extremely well. It is incredibly easy for them to ensure that a store that sells Gillette blades or Vicks also stocks Whisper sanitary pads on their shelves. So girls and their mothers see their pads not just in schools but at the final point of the sales cycle as well, which are the retail stores near their homes. If you made it this far, please share this video with one person who you know will find it interesting. And follow me on LinkedIn. The link is in the description below. Until I see you in the next video, goodbye.